Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our talk. My name is Elena Lazarenko, and this is my colleague, Aleksandr Riaposov. We are members of Project INEL of University of Hamburg, and we are working with Indigenous Northern Eurasian languages. And today we will present to you our way to preserve and promote cultural heritage of these languages using the corpora that we are building within our project.
Okay, hello. The topic of our talk today is Community versus Corpus, accessible language resources for Indigenous speaker communities as a way to preserve and promote cultural heritage. A few words about the project first. So INEL stands for Grammar Corpora Language Technology for Indigenous Northern Eurasian Languages. And since 2016, our project has been developing different resources, mainly corpora, for the languages of this Northern Eurasian area. So the aim of the project has been to document and preserve language data for various languages that are spoken in this Northern Eurasia or Siberia. We have been using materials from archives as well as collected in the field to make documents of them and then transcribe them and create annotations and then to publish the materials. Sometimes they would have audio files attached to them, sometimes they would not, sometimes they would have video. So it's a multimedia corpora, in fact. And the end user of such a corpus is, however, a language expert, so somebody who knows how to work with this software created for language experts as well, and somebody who knows how to read and process different standards of transcription that we have used to describe these languages. So the difference here is that the end user is a linguist and not a speaker of the language, not a member of the community necessarily. A bit more about the languages that we have been working on so far. We have published 4 corpora on Evenki, Dolgan, Selkut, and Kamas languages. As you can see on this slide, the number of people who are speaking them is quite low, and in fact the languages are very much endangered, if not extinct, as is the case for Kamas. And we are working currently on several more corpora, which are yet to be published. On, for example, in Ganazan, but this situation, general situation for these languages is more or less the same, up to maybe a few thousand speakers, and that's it. And the speakers are mostly older people who are not necessarily technology savvy. And that creates an interesting situation when we would like to work with them as a community and to be able to present the materials that we have collected in our corpora to them, again, as a community, and to make the materials that we have collected somehow more accessible for these people. For this purpose, we have created community pages, so-called community pages, on our website, the website of the project. The first version of the community page was created for the Day of Open Doors in February 2021. So we have taken the materials as they appear in Corpus software, as you can see on the left side the slide, and extracted only the necessary information from these recordings, that is the audio, if there was any audio, and then the texts with translations. So only the basic information, omitting most of the linguistic annotation that is not really necessary for community, as well as we have extracted some basic metadata information, but again, not a lot, not to overwhelm people with something they might not necessarily be interested in. And here, how the first version of the community page looked on our website. It is in Russian. I'm not sure if you can see that pretty well. And it was really basic HTML code, nothing very sophisticated. And from then on, we have decided to update that and create a new version of the community page, which would be more useful and usable by the community. You can go to the page as it is by using this link here. I'm not sure if I'm going to use this one. And the design principles, I think we are going to be able to cover the next slide. Yeah. So the idea behind these community pages is to provide access to our data to people who have not necessarily have linguistic background, linguistic maybe education, who are not really interested in deep annotations and transcriptions of the text, who are maybe only able to read the translation as well as the original texts in the target language, whichever one that would be. So Selkup and Dolgan, I think we have two community pages so far for Selkup and Dolgan, and the others are in the works right now. Russian language is used as lingua franca because the speakers of these languages, naturally they live in Russia and they speak Russian as their second language, as well as, well, the researchers also speak Russian to some extent, at least. And then we think it's very important to provide people with the information on the language they can understand. So that's why we use Russian and not, for example, English, even though English could have been accessible to a wider community worldwide. The people in our communities probably would not be able to understand any English or German or French or any other lingua franca to a good enough degree to make the use of this language necessary. Yeah, and on the right-hand side, you can see how a transcription of the text looks. So there is a panel to play the sound file on the top, and then there are sentences of the text here with the original text and their Russian translation, line by line. Here is some more from our webpage. It's a link that would give you another link to a map for materials. So where have they been collected and which settlements and rivers and so on have been mentioned in the region. Okay. One thing that I think is very important to mention here is that when we created the second version of this community page, we decided to use responsive design to be able to support different gadgets, different, well, ways to access the website. In fact, we are expecting the people who are community members to use their smartphones or mobile devices to access our page, not the PCs or laptops or whatever, because, well, that's what people do, right? So we would like to be able to present a web page regardless of which kind of device was used to access it, so that it would look fine on mobile, but also on a desktop version as well. And we would also like to forego the use or the requirement to use some specific software as was necessary to access the corpora for linguists in their published version. So here we have extracted the texts again from our corpora to a web page, and here is some meta information, the name of the text, when it was recorded and where, and who was the speaker, and do we have the audio file, and so on. And this information has been collected for each text that is presented on the community page. Well, yeah, that's not all, because also we would like to create some more engaging ways to for community members to maybe play around on the site, have some good time working with the language. So far we have collected the most common nouns in a word cloud, like here on the right side. The idea is that one would be able to click on some of the word and then see the instances. Besides that, we are working on a so-called visual dictionary, where we would be presenting some pictures taken in the, for example, field trips by some member of the project. And on these pictures, we would select some objects or people or something and present their translation to this to one of our languages, for example, Selkip or Dogon, as well as translation to Russian as the meta language. And we hope that this will be interesting for the community members to just play around with and maybe suggest new materials of this nature to add to our website. Okay, and before I say thank you for attention, I think I should show, yes, so here is the web page as it is right now online. Yep. So you could click on something here, for example, the information about the project, or the information about people working in a project. From here, you can go to the text. Again, there is some information about languages and the people who have been collecting the corpus. And from here, you can click on maybe one of the texts here, and here you can see this transcription that I've been showing to you earlier on the slide. Yep. And here, for example, the map, or yeah, so here's the map I've been talking about, where you can see the different objects or the geographical places where the texts were collected, or somehow they're relevant to the area that we are working in. or the tech cloud here, which should appear. Yeah, it's right there. So again, thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them or forward the question to my colleague who might also be happy to answer them.
Thank you for your attention.